Movies. They can go such a far way. Let's hop in the time machine and travel back to June 25th, 1982. On this day, a film adaptation of the book, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, was unleashed upon the public under the title Blade Runner. For those unaware, Blade Runner is a sci-fi masterpiece set in the dystopian future in Los Angeles. While it is now hailed as a cult classic and initially underperformed at the box office, with this cult fan base, there emerged a significant admirer of the movie, none other than Hideo Kojima. Now, if you recall my Metal Gear retrospective video, you'll remember me emphasizing Kojima's deep love for film. His appreciation for the art of movies played a crucial role in shaping his artistic vision for video games. Now, you might be curious on how Kojima paid homage to Blade Runner in his work. Today, we're delving into the actions and influences that showcases Kojima's reverence for this iconic film. Welcome back to the Retro Phantom Retrospective. Today we're diving in Kojima's underrated masterpiece, Snatcher. If you're new to the channel and enjoy retrospectives, I encourage you to browse my channel as I have an epic collection brewing. And if you're curious about what else is in the pipeline, I urge you to stealthily snatch the subscribe button and leave a rice tray with the notification bell so you never miss out on new content. Let's dive into this. With Hideo Kojima finally releasing Metal Gear to the world, Konami was a huge fan of his work. With Konami impressed, they wondered what was next in Kojima's mind. In order to dissect what was on his mind, we need to look back at some of the games that inspired him to take the mantle of working in game development. In 1983, there was a company called Enix, now known as Square Enix, that published a game titled The Portopia Serial Murder Case. This game marked a significant moment in gaming history. It presented a first-person perspective narrative, immersing players in a murder mystery where they had to piece together clues, explore various locations, engage with characters, and solve item-based puzzles. Essentially, it was a pioneering example of what we categorize today as a visual novel, a blend of storytelling and interactive gameplay. Kojima, being the visionary game developer we know today, found inspiration in the gameplay and style of the Portopia Serial Murder Case. He often acknowledges his influence as far as cite one of his 3 most influential games he's ever played. This game played a pivotal role in shaping Kojima's early understanding of game development. Fueled by the gameplay of the Portopia Serial Murder Case, Kojima envisioned his next creation as a visual novel, intending to incorporate similar gameplay mechanics that had captivated him in the Enix classic. Drawing inspiration from cinematic gems like Invasion of the Body Snatchers and Blade Runner, Kojima's creative vision started to take shape. Armed with the cyberpunk adventure concept, he approached Konami with his pitch for the game, initially named Junker. While the term cyberpunk might not have been fully understood at the time, Konami recognized the potential and greenlit Kojima's project. However, due to trademark constraints, the title had to be changed from Junker to Snatcher. Now back with Konami's support, Kojima could dive into the development of his ambitious project. Teaming up with Tomohiro Kinoshita, Kojima dove headfirst into the development of Snatcher. What set this project apart was Kojima's unique approach. He didn't conceive it merely as a game, but envisioned it more like a movie or anime. This departure from the traditional game development process posed challenges, especially since this style was entirely new for Konami. Given Konami's background as an action game company rooted in arcade games, venturing to the uncharted territory of adventure games required Kojima to pave the way. He expressed the challenges in a tweet highlighting Konami's lack of experience in adventure game development. The company's roots in the MS Activision meant they had no PC-88 development tools, no know-how, and no existing sales for channels for the genre. Kojima's tweet captured the intensity of their journey. Konami was an action game company that had cut its teeth from arcade games, so no one in the company had ever made an adventure game. Therefore, we had to develop an adventure game system. Furthermore, since we were an MSX division, we had no PC-88 development tools, no know-how, no sales channels, so we had to start from scratch. Technically, politically, and physically, every day was grueling. Not only did we have to plan, set up, write scripts, storyboards, game design, coordination, and instruction manuals, but we had to write our own simple language. And not only insert text, but we also controlled everything, from flag management to pictures, animation, and sound. This was the beginning of what we would now call a level edit. Crafting this new style of game proved to be the most formidable challenge for Kojima. Given Konami's lack of prior experience with adventure games, having made a name for themselves in action games, the development of Snatcher required breaking new ground while cautiously adhering to the established adventure game conventions. Typically, adventure games follow a protagonist through an interactive story fueled by exploration and puzzle solving. However, Kojima envisioned a unique twist, introducing a translation into a keyboard shooter within the narrative. The departure from convention aimed to keep players engaged without encountering the typical creator's flag message when repeating commands. The novelty of this concept faced skepticism and even mockery from other teams and senior figures within Konami. Despite Kojima's resilience, having weathered similar challenges during his time on Metal Gear, the pressure took its toll. There were moments when he found himself breaking down under the weight of external skepticism and the relentless pursuit of a pioneering vision. With Konami's directive to make Snatcher compatible with both the MSX and PC-8801, Kojima faced the challenge of expanding his team to about half the size of a Famicom team. The PC-8801 version boasted FM stereo sound via the Soundboard 2 expansion card. On the other hand, the MSX2 version featured a unique cartridge, providing an enhanced soundscape and additional RAM, going beyond the platform's default capabilities. This cartridge not only facilitated different music track arrangements, but also raised the retail price. Above that, the PC-8801 version, a departure from the usual trend of cheaper MSX game pricing, the musical richness of Snatcher exceeded the standards of its time, necessitating a larger than usual sound team. Given the technical limitations of both platforms and synthesizing speech, Kojima's team utilized sound effects to represent character dialogue, a creative workaround to bring the narrative to life in a unique and immersive way. The development of Snatcher unfolded over a significant 18-month period, a duration 3 times longer than the typical video game production timeline of that time. This extended time frame was primarily a result of the unique challenges Kojima and his team faced, simultaneously developing the game for 2 separate consoles. The endeavor to create models for both the MSX2 and the PC-8801 was just one facet of complexities Kojima navigated. The PC-88 model, in particular, posed additional hurdles. Neither Kojima nor Konami has substantial experience in developing games for this home computer, especially when compared to other PC-based companies. As a member of the MSX division, Kojima lacked the necessary tools for creating a PC-88 model. Despite these challenges, the team persevered. Not only did they have to create a market and launch an adventure game, but they also had to develop an entirely new system and tools tailored for the PC-8801 platform. This multifaceted effort underscored the ambitious nature of Snatcher's development, pushing boundaries of what was achievable in the realm of game design. Snatcher was released to Japanese markets on November 26, 1988 for the PC-8801. A month later, on December 13, 1988, it was released for the MSX. This Japanese exclusive game, Snatcher, remained confined to its home market until years later. In a strategic move driven by the allure of the Western gaming market, Konami introduced a game for the Sega CD called Lethal Enforcers. Recognizing the potential in Western audiences, they seized the opportunity to bring Snatcher to international waters. This decision not only marked the game's debut in the West, but also provided developers with a chance to enhance the PC Engine's version, which they felt was not perfected yet. Despite the Sega CD's limitations capable of displaying only 64 colors simultaneously compared to the PC Engine's 256, the team employed software techniques to boost the color palette to 112. They also made strategic modifications to some palettes to find a compromise. The responsibility of translating the game fell to Scott Hartz, supervised by Jeremy Blaustein and Konami of Japan. This intricate translation process took about 2 to 3 months. Voice acting added an extra layer of complexity, with 7 voice actors recording approximately 2.5 hours of dialogue for 26 different characters. The sheer volume of text in the game made the translation an expensive undertaking, and Konami considered it the most challenging aspect of the porting process. Kojima was not directly involved in the Sega CD port, and changes to the game's content and story were implemented without his input. Snatcher was released December 15, 1994 in Europe in January 1995 in North America, Snatcher finally made its international debut and an English translation was finally given to American markets. Here's a spoiler as I'm about to tell the story about Snatcher along with light spoilers from Metal Gear. Now, if you're not a fan of spoilers, please advance to the gameplay overview section as seen on the timeline below. Let's dive into this. The narrative of Snatcher unfolds against the backdrop of a catastrophic event known as the Catastrophe. On either June 6, 1991 or June 6, 1996, depending on the game's region, a biological weapon named Lucifer Alpha is released into the atmosphere from Shinterion, Russia. The aftermath is devastating, resulting in the death of 80% of the Eurasian population and half of the world's population. The affected region remains uninhabitable for a decade until Lucifer Alpha mutates into a non-lethal form. Fast forward 50 years to 2047 or 2042 depending on the region. Neo Kobe City, an artificial island, becomes the stage for a new menace, artificial life forms or viroids called Snatchers. These mysterious beings infiltrate society by killing their victims and assuming their identities. The origin and purpose of the Snatchers remain unknown. Enter Gillian C., a protagonist with amnesia who starts working for an anti-Snatcher task force called Junker. Both he and his wife Jamie appears to have amnesia and cannot remember anything about their past. In this cyberpunk world, players embark on a quest to unravel the source of Snatchers and uncover Gillian's enigmatic connections to them. The narrative unfolds in 3 acts, blending elements of mystery, intrigue, and cyberpunk dystopia, as players delve into the secrets of Neo Kobe City and the sinister presence of the Snatchers. Enter Act 1, Snatch. Gillian makes his entrance into the world of Junker. Arriving at the agency HQ, he undergoes introductions with his new colleagues. Receptionist Mika Slayton guides him to Chief Vincent Cunningham, who furnishes Gillian with his Junker ID and briefs him on his rights and responsibilities. Mika continues the orientation with a tour of the headquarters, providing Gillian with a glimpse of the agency's inner workings. During this process, Gillian encounters Harry Benson, a Junker mechanic, who reveals that Gillian will be assigned a navigator for robot patrols. The designed robot is none other than the Metal Gear Mark II, a creation model after the Metal Gear TX-55.
I know. All right, allow me to introduce the Navigator, which I designed especially for you. Hey, Metal Gear, get out here. Metal, introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. Pleased to meet you, Gillian. I am Metal Gear Mach 2. I am programmed to be your personal assistant.
Metal Gear? That's a pretty weird name.
Oh, he's cute.
Thank you.
I think he's turning red. I took his basic design and his name from the Metal Gear Menace of the late 20th century. But quite unlike that Metal Gear, this one was designed for peaceful purposes.
The narrative takes a dramatic turn when Metal Gear receives an emergency call from John Jack Gibson, the only other surviving Junker runner. Gibson reports concerning 2 potential Snatchers in an abandoned factory. Gillian, dispatched with the agency turbocycle, arrives to find a gruesome scene. Gibson and his navigator robot Little John have been massacred by the Snatchers. Gillian investigates Gibson's body and finds skin cells under his fingernails and hair in his right hand. Metal analyzes clues and discovers that Gibson was attacked by a male and female snatcher. In the aftermath, Gillian and Metal Gear gather evidence at the crime scene, only to detect the presence of snatchers themselves. A pursuit ensues, but the elusive couple manages to vanish. The tension escalates when the duo faces an onslaught of insectors, narrowly escaping the most portal factories obliterated by a time bomb planted by the snatchers.
We're getting out of here!
Sorry, I cannot go with you.
What's wrong with you? Hurry it up!
I am incapable of locomotion.
What on earth are you blabbering about? Let's go! It's gonna blow!
Please save yourself. I am paralyzed with fear.
Oh, I can't believe this stupid robot! Come on! Jeez, my ears are really ringing.
That's because you left the volume turned up.
Damn snatchers.
There is no need for concern. I have stored all the information about the evidence and the area in my memory. We should return to Junker headquarters.
After the events at the factory, Gillian, Seed, and Metal Gear return to the Junker HQ, where Gillian shares the heartbreaking news of Gibson's demise. The entire agency is visibly affected by the tragedy, with Mika in tears and Harry drowning himself with a bottle of brandy. Driven to unravel the mystery surrounding Gibson's death, Gillian intensifies his investigation, searching his desk and finding medicine capsules and a queen chess piece. In Gibson's possession, he discovers additional clues that prompt him to contact Gibson's informant Napoleon. The decision is made to meet at a random location, but before that, Gillian pays an important visit to Gibson's house. There, he attempts to console Gibson's daughter Katrina and delves into Gibson's notes stored on a floppy disk for an antique PC-68 Genesis computer. Gibson's notes reveal critical insight. Ultraviolet rays are harmful to Snatcher's artificial skin, forcing them to use sunscreen even in the winter.
Snatcher investigation file. Why do Snatchers appear in the winter? Why are Snatchers nocturnal? I believe I have found the answer to these questions. Snatchers' vampire-like behavior is due to their desire to avoid exposure to sunlight. The reason they dislike sunlight is because of their defective artificial skin. Long-term exposure to ultraviolet rays causes overproduction of melanocytes in the epidermis of their artificial skin, leading to a form of skin cancer with the characteristics of melanoma. In other words, what we call simple sunburn is fatal to them. This relationship between ultraviolet rays and their artificial skin should give us a way to track them down. It should take at least 6 more months before they can develop a form of skin which overcomes this defect. These conclusions suggest several useful methods for locating and identifying Snatchers. 1. Investigate skin condition. Check for any evidence of melanoma. 2. Check for odor. Cancer cells secrete a unique foul odor. 3. The presence of pollen. Snatchers are believed to hide in areas plentiful in Snow 9, a snow-like bioengineered pollen crystal. As such, Snow 9 can always be detected in places they appear. Snow 9 is an allergen, causing throat pain and sneezing. 4. Possession of sunscreen. In order to protect their skin from ultraviolet rays, Snatchers use sunscreen even in the dead of winter. This is due to sunscreen's ability to block ultraviolet rays. Of these techniques, 1 and 4 should prove particularly useful. In addition, besides working to prevent this skin cancer, Snatchers maintain facilities for treating artificial skin which has actually become cancerous. I have succeeded in identifying the hospital where this is performed. P.S. Watch out for a bounty hunter named Random Hajil.
Further investigating uncovers that Gibson's last meal was buffalo meat, an illegal D&C in most parts of the city. Gillian, guided by information from Napoleon, discovers that Outer Heaven, a masquerade nightclub, serves illegal buffalo meat. Before venturing into Outer Heaven, he acquires a mask from Plato's Capital, a black market community. At Outer Heaven, Gillian approaches a dancer named Isabella Velvet, showing her Gibson's picture. She discloses that Gibson was telling an individual, providing a description. Gillian inputs this description into Jordan, leading to 2 suspects, Ivan Rodriguez and Freddie Nielsen. Choosing to investigate Ivan first, Gillian confronts him at his house, prompting a tense confrontation as Ivan tries to shoot Gillian. Quick reflexes saves him as he disarms Ivan, only to discover that Rodriguez is really a drug pusher. Gillian alerts the cops to come and pick up Ivan.
All right, buddy, get up.
Hey, I only do liquid sky, dude. Just once in a while. I swear. I don't touch anything else. Don't hurt me, man. Come on. Call me an ambulance, will you?
I'm no cop, I'm a junker. I couldn't care less if you're a buyer, a pusher, or what. What I want to know is if you're a snatcher or human.
Gillian, Ivan's skin is healthy. There is no way he could be a snatcher and tan like that without developing melanoma. However, HQ has just transmitted us a scanning warrant. Therefore, under the provisions of Section 18 of the Civil Code, Snatchers and the Protection of Citizens' Rights, I will hereby commence a full bioscan of Ivan. Analysis complete. Ivan Rodriguez is a completely normal Homo sapien.
I keep telling you, dude, I ain't no snatcher or whatever. Now, would you please get me a doctor?
Why don't you just put some of your drugs on it?
Hey, I wasn't doing anything wrong, man.
The friendly boys from narcotics will be here any time now. Save your breath for them.
Come on, dude, I ain't done nothing. I'm just into air surfing. I just wanted to win the competition, man. I needed some money for that, okay? Hey, it's just drugs, man.
Gillian and Meadow redirect their investigation to Freddie Nielsen's house. Upon arrival, they encounter Freddie's wife, Lisa, and engage in a discussion about Freddie's whereabouts. Gillian delicately shares his suspicion that Freddie might be a snatcher, a revelation that distresses Lisa. With her permission, Gillian and Metal Gear inspect the bathroom, discovering a tub filled with water and a peculiar bottle of sunscreen. The presence of sunscreen in the winter leads them to the chilling conclusion that Freddie Nielsen is indeed a snatcher. As they turn around, a shocking revelation is revealed.
There's no mistake. Freddie Nielsen is a snatcher. Gillian, with this much evidence, there will be no difficulty getting a scanning warrant.
We've got you now, snatcher scum.
So, you figured it out, huh?
Who's that?
Know all about us, do you, junker?
That wound.
Jean did that to her.
Die, junker!
Lisa, now revealed as a snatcher, attacks Gillian and Metal. In self-defense, the duo is forced to shoot her down. As they investigate Lisa's remains, they deduce her involvement in the murder of John Jack Gibson because the skin cells found in his fingernails matched Lisa's DNA. This allowed them to draw the conclusion that she was one of the two snatchers at the factory. Leaving the scene, they notice a light switch turning on in the building, signaling Freddy's return. Returning to the door, Metal Gear's motion sensor triggers, indicating Freddy's presence. The duo re-enters the house, only to find the bathroom now empty, devoid of water as it previously held. As Gillian delves deeper, Freddy ambushes him, putting him in a headlock. In a dramatic twist as Gillian appears on the brink of death, Random Hajir, a bounty hunter tracking snatchers, intervenes, blowing off Freddy's head. Gillian's life is spared thanks to Random's timely intervention. Impressed by Random's snatcher hunting skills, Metal Gear runs his credentials. Random provides valuable insights and reveals the existence of a hospital where snatchers are bred. Gillian concludes that Random must have obtained some information from Gibson earlier. Gillian then analyzes the hair sample of Freddy and deduces that it matches the snatcher that attacked Gibson in the factory, bringing Act 1 to a close.
That was close. You're lucky I was here to save your skin. Who are you? Me? Random Hajir, bounty hunter.
Bounty hunter?
Yes, Gillian, a bounty hunter. As the junker profession is so dangerous, their numbers have fallen dramatically over the past few years. As a result, the government decided to put a price on snatchers' heads in order to encourage private citizens to cooperate in the effort to track them down. Naturally, these bounty hunters must register with the authorities.
You said your name's Random, right? What did you do? Follow me here?
Yeah, you got it. Investigations aren't my style. You track them down, I take them out.
You have the legal obligation to state your bounty hunter registration number. Please do so now, immediately.
BH75001 Random Hajile. That's RANDOMHAJILE.
BH75001 Random Hajile. That's confirmed. I officially recognize you as a legal bounty hunter. Wow. Gillian, records indicate that he has already disposed of 3 snatchers just this month. Counting Freddy, that makes 4.
4? I've been at this a lot longer than you have. Just relax, rookie. So, Junker Boy, let me give you a little tip. You might already know, but Snatcher's weak point is their artificial skin. If they sit out in the sun too long, they get cancer. That's why they set up a hospital to treat this little problem of theirs. You find it, you can take them out, roots and all.
Where did you get all your information? Wait a sec. You stole it from Gibson, didn't you?
That's not really important. But now that Gibson's out of the picture, I need you to get busy.
I track him down and you junk him. Is that the idea?
Anyhow, it seems Gibson found that hospital. He must have left behind some information about it.
What do you mean, seems? Don't you know anything about it?
Hey, investigations are your job, right?
I owe you one, Random.
Yeah, I'll get it out of you later. See ya, Junker Boy.
A Snatcher-controlled hospital, eh? There's bound to be more than a few of them in there.
In Act 2, titled Cure, Chief Benson assigns Gillian C the crucial task of locating the hospital mentioned by Random. Gillian turns to Harry, who has recovered some of Little John's memory. From this recovery, they obtain an image of a hospital called Hospital Olean. Seeking more information, Gillian consults Napoleon. He gives information about a hospital named Olean. While questioning Napoleon, he inadvertently exhibits symptoms of Snow 9, an allergen that surfaces in winter, allowing individuals to detect traces of snatchers. Despite Napoleon's attempt to play it off, Gillian deduces the presence of Snow 9 and proceeds to Olean Hospital. To his surprise, Hospital Olean turns out to be an ordinary veterinarian spot.
Snatchers cannot tolerate dogs. It is improbable that this is their skin cancer treatment center.
Looks like we barked up the wrong tree here. So, now we're back to square one, huh?
Don't become too discouraged. We still have many leads. Let's head back to the turbocycle.
Olean Hospital.
Unfortunately, this wasn't the place.
You're right, Metal. Okay, let's go.
Disappointed but undented, Gillian returns to his turbocycle and receives a distress call from Mika. Katrina, Gibson's daughter, is in trouble, having reached out 30 minutes ago. Gillian and Metal rush to Gibson's house to find it unlocked. Inside, they discover that Katrina is missing. The study appears to be ransacked, hinting at a breaking and entering. Venturing outside in search of Alice, Gibson's dog, they find only a dog collar. Returning indoors, Gillian continues his investigation, suddenly sneezing. The presence of Snow 9 in the air implies traces of snatchers in the area. Soon, Metal Gear detects motion, leading them to the window, where upon investigation, Alice, Gibson's dog, crashes through the house, having been killed by snatchers. Fearing the worst, Gillian and Metal anxiously hope that Katrina has not suffered the same fate.
Gillian, I read motion. Use extreme caution. The signal is coming from outside the window.
It's Alice!
The dog is dead. Body temperature suggests it was killed about 10 minutes ago. No doubt the work of snatchers.
Scum! No reason to kill the poor animal. Katrina! Where's Katrina?
We can leave the cleanup here to the junk crews. We should look for Katrina.
Judging from the mess they made here, it looks like they were looking for something, were quite upset that they couldn't find it.
Perhaps that means that Katrina is still safe.
That's true. If they had her, there'd be no need to turn the place upside down like this.
Perhaps Katrina took whatever they were looking for and fled.
I bet you're right, Metal. We've got to find her before they do. Let's get back to the turbo cycle.
Gillian and Metal Gear embark on a relentless search for Katrina, scouring the entire city without success. The mystery deepens when Gillian, turning to his own apartment, discovers signs of a break-in. Proceeding cautiously, he enters his home, spotting shoe prints that indicate an intruder. The sound of running water from the bathroom raises his guard, leading him to the shower where he discovers Katrina alive and well. It turns out she broke into Gillian's house in an attempt to find him and decided to take a shower. Questioning Katrina about her distress calls to HQ, she unveils a hospital list that was in her father's possession. Intrigued, Gillian delves into the hospital list to uncover the Snatcher facility that Gibson was searching for. A breakthrough occurs when the word Queens, doubling upon Queens Hospital, the chess piece labeled Queen, a clue from Act 1, now takes on new significance. Gillian and Metal Gear decide to investigate Queens Hospital, ensuring Katrina's safety by placing her in protective custody during their travels.
Gillian, please be careful.
Don't worry, Katrina. You're safe now. They won't be coming after you.
Just to be on the safe side, we will have Kobe police take you into protective custody.
Gillian, I'm sorry about the way I reacted in the shower. Maybe if your timing had been a little better, we might have...
Don't worry about it, Katrina. I think I needed a cold shower anyway.
I'm just so confused. I don't want to lose anybody else.
All right, let's go, Metal. We have to pay a visit to Queens Hospital.
Gillian ventures to Queens Hospital, only to discover an abandoned building that seems to have been vacant for several years. Undeterred, he proceeds with his investigation. Upon entering the hospital, Gillian investigates door number 3, where he stumbles upon the patient record written in Chinese. Attempting to translate, Metal faces a challenge with the unfamiliar symbols on the paper. Despite this setback, Metal stores the paper in their files. To tackle this issue of translation, Gillian and Metal decide to contact Napoleon, only to encounter an unexpected ad for Outer Heaven. Resolving to revisit Outer Heaven, they find a masked man at the door who turns out to be Napoleon engaged in his alternate role. Gillian deduces this is Napoleon's telltale sneezing triggered by Snow 9. Complying with their request, Napoleon allows them entry into the club. Gillian presents a paper found in the hospital, and as Napoleon reads it, he reveals that the symbols on the paper are chemistry symbols for beryllium, nitrogen, sulfur, and oxygen. This revelation takes an intriguing turn as the symbols combine the name Benson, now suspecting a connection to Chief Benson or Harry Benson, the engineer. Gillian has Metal Gear disconnect all communications to Junker headquarters.
So that's it. Benson. Beryllium is Be, nitrogen is N, Sulfur is S, and oxygen is O. And another N makes Benson. The name Benson was encoded on this file.
Benson. I sure hope it is not referring to the chief, Benson Cunningham.
Or to our friendly engineer, Mr. Harry Benson. No, that couldn't be. No way!
But the possibility, though remote, does exist.
Metal, I want you to cut off all your data transmissions to headquarters now.
Understood. Now disabling automatic transmission routines. Done. No further data transmissions to headquarters will be executed.
My God, a snatcher in Junker headquarters? We've got to get there quick. Let's go, Metal.
See you later, Junker. Today's little information tidbit is on me. Now take care, Gillian. Don't get yourself taken out by some snatcher. I think I'll lay low for a while. You know, after all, you are my main source of income.
You be careful too, Napoleon. You get killed and you won't be able to sneeze anymore.
What's that supposed to mean?
See you, Napoleon. Metal, let's go.
Gillian and Metal, armed with new revelations, speed back to HQ on the turbocycle. Mika informs them that both the Chief and Harry are currently absent. Gillian shares the discovery of the code on the patient record, suggesting that the possibility that either Harry or Chief Benson is a snatcher. Determined to unveil the truth, he thoroughly investigates both of their offices at HQ. In Harry's space, Gillian finds matches to Outer Heaven, an encrypted paper that reads, "Face to Face." Intrigued by this mysterious message, he proceeds to Chief Benson's office. There he discovers a vase painting that, upon closer inspection, resembles a face, uncovering a concealed button. Gillian presses it, revealing a 50-year-old picture of Red Square in Moscow taken before the catastrophic event. The investigation into both the Chief and Harry only deepens the enigma, leaving Gillian with more questions than answers. Returning to his turbocycle, Gillian receives a call from Jane, his wife, who shares crucial information. There was a basement constructed at Queen's Hospital, which is uncommon in Japan. She even feeds him information about the guy who owned the building. Armed with this newfound knowledge, Gillian and Metal Gear decide to explore the basement floor of the hospital.
Gillian, it's me, Jamie. Listen carefully. You know that Queen's Hospital? I found out that they undertook a major expansion project in 2035 to put in a basement. That's right, they have a basement. Basement construction is really unusual here in Neo Kobe. That's why there were still records of it. But there's more. The director of that hospital, Chin Chu Ho, has had his license suspended in the past for performing eugenics experiments at an illicit underground facility.
Are you telling me Queens has underground treatment facilities?
That has to be it, Gillian. Chin Chu Ho is performing skin operations on Snatchers underground.
And that means that Chin himself is also probably a snatcher. Or rather, the real Chin, the original Chin, was snatched.
So, that entire ground-level complex is just a front for the underground facilities.
And if we hit that hospital, we can ruin the Snatcher's plans. Well, this is it, Metal. We're heading right into the enemy's headquarters this time.
Gillian?
Yeah?
This sounds really dangerous. I just wanted you to know I want you to come home safe.
Jamie.
The reason I left you is because I thought you were pushing yourself too hard, being self-destructive. And it seemed like the wedding ring you were wearing when they found us had become a tremendous burden on you. I didn't want that to be the only reason we stayed together.
Oh, Jamie, I never felt that way at all.
I'll be waiting for you. We may not have our memories, but you are the only one I've ever shared any time with. Be careful, Gillian.
Jamie.
Are you all right, Gillian?
Yeah. All right, Metal, let's go. We have to pay a visit to Queen's Hospital. Her Majesty is waiting.
As they head towards the hospital, Gillian discovers that his turbocycle has been tampered with. His accelerator is stuck and he's hurtling towards a cliff. In a desperate moment, both Gillian and Metal plead for their lives. but once again, Random intervenes, saving them on his motorcycle. Grateful for Random's timely rescue, the trio, Gillian, Random, and Metal, continue their journey to Queen's Hospital. With heightened tension, upon arrival, they face door number 3 and uncover a hidden door, leading to the basement descending stairs, as they find a layout mirroring the first floor. Opening door number 1, they stumble upon an operating room. A chilling discovery awaits them as they spot a skeleton snatcher without its artificial skin, initially assuming it to be disabled. To their shock, the snatcher suddenly activates, prompting swift gunfire to neutralize the threat. The realization sets in that they have stumbled upon a breeding ground for snatchers.
Did I get it?
The Snatcher's functions have been terminated. There's no doubt now that this is their maintenance facility. This one was probably still waiting to get its artificial skin installed.
So this is what they really look like, huh?
Yeah, that's the scariest thing about them. You can't tell them from real people once they've got that skin on.
Perhaps that's humanity's great weakness. We're always judging books by their cover.
And it's just that human weakness that they're out to take advantage of.
All right, Random. Metal, let's go. The HQ's junk squad can take care of him later. We've got an investigation to do.
Gillian and Random have successfully opened door number 3 by holding switches 1 and 2 simultaneously, stepping to a morbid discovery. Door number 3 reveals a morgue filled with skeletons, the haunting remains of Snatcher victims. It becomes evident that Freddy used his cab business as cover to transfer bodies from outer heaven, weaving a deceptive web to gather information. Gillian, now faced with the grim scene, investigates the decomposing bodies of the victims. In a surprising revelation, Metal Gear proposes extracting DNA from the skeletons to identify the victims. The process unveils a shocking truth. Among the skeletons are Freddy, Lisa, Dr. Chin Shu, and, to Gillian's profound shock, Chief Vincent Cunningham himself. The unsettling revelation unfolds that the Chief has been the Snatcher for the past month.
Now performing simulated reconstruction of the head and facial features of each of the 4 victims. Commencing with victim number 1. Now performing craniometric analysis. X-ray and sagittal X-ray, magnetic resonance imaging, and positron CT data gathered. Complete cranial data now being compiled. Craniometric analysis complete. Now commencing reconstruction. First, victim's age. Estimate based on 1. Presence or absence of cranial fontanelles and chroma of epicranial sutures. 2. Area of facial region and cranium. 3. Height of upper and lower jaw and development of alveolar part. And 4. Location of cranial center of gravity. Next, victim's sex. Estimate based on 1. Overall size of cranium. 2. Parietal bone angle. And 3. Development of splachocranium. Lastly, victim's race. Estimate based on 1. Overall cranial configuration. 2. Volume of intercranial cavity. And 3. Mass of the skull. Now commencing soft feature reconstruction based on averaged results of above analysis. Reconstructing. Initial phase completed. Margin of error on estimate of victim's race 10% based on use of averaged values. Now adding postulated hair and eye features. Reconstruction of head of first victim completed.
It's Freddy Nielsen.
Moving on to second victim. Now commencing reconstruction of features of victim number 2. Now starting craniometric analysis. Complete cranial data now being compiled using the same techniques as the previous reconstruction. Craniometric analysis complete. Now commencing reconstruction using the same techniques as the previous reconstruction. Reconstructing. Initial phase completed. Margin of error on estimate of victim's race 10% based on use of averaged values. Now adding postulated hair and eye features. Reconstruction of head of second victim completed.
That's Lisa Nielsen.
Moving on to third victim. Now commencing reconstruction of features of victim number 3. Now starting craniometric analysis. Complete cranial data now being compiled using the same techniques as the previous reconstruction. Craniometric analysis complete. Now commencing reconstruction using the same techniques as the previous reconstruction. Reconstructing. Initial phase completed. Margin of error on estimate of victim's race 10% based on use of averaged values. Now adding postulated hair and eye features. Reconstruction of head of third victim completed.
Who in the world is that?
That's the director of Queen's Hospital, Shin Fui, what's his face,
Chin Shu O, Gillian. Moving on to last victim. Now commencing reconstruction of features of victim number 4.
This one's the most recent. It's still decomposing.
Now starting craniometric analysis. Complete cranial data now being compiled using the same techniques as the previous reconstruction. Craniometric analysis complete. Now commencing reconstruction using the same techniques as the previous reconstruction. Reconstructing. Initial phase completed. Margin of error on estimate of victim's race 10% based on use of averaged values. Now adding postulated hair and eye features. Reconstruction of head of final victim completed.
It's the Chief!
What?
The Chief is a snatcher! The Benson on the scrap of that patient record was Benson Cunningham.
Judging from the condition of the body, I would estimate that the snatching took place approximately 1 month ago.
So it was the Chief who sabotaged our turbocycle. And those matches we found in Harry's room, the Chief must have put them there to try to set him up.
No doubt Harry figured it out and decided to leave that face-to-face message. Wait a minute. Didn't Mika say that Harry had left to go find the Chief?
That's right. He was probably trying to track down some evidence on the Chief.
Gillian, I'd say that this Harry has put himself in a pretty dangerous spot.
If it was the Chief that sabotaged the turbocycle, doesn't that mean that he already knows we're onto him?
Damn! Harry and Mika are in danger!
That's far enough, Junker. Your little investigation is over.
It's them!
Who? Snatchers?
Get them!
My arm! I can't reach my blaster!
I'm hit in the leg!
Is that the best you can do, Junker?
Who's there?
Jin Shuo, you scum!
It seems you still have some fight left in you. You two are finished, but our plans move forward. We are now entering Phase 2. And when we do, not only this city, but the entire world will be ours to command.
Phase 2? What are you talking about?
As you know, our operations have been hindered up to now by the flaws in our artificial skin. The skin's shortcomings have kept us away from ultraviolet rays, forcing us to do our work at night, underground, or in the winter. In the end, we had to construct a hospital like this, all because of the flaws in our artificial skin. This was the only difference between us and you humans. But now we have broken this barrier.
Huh?
We are on the verge of developing a perfect artificial skin, thanks to the cooperation of a new partner in our plan.
Perfect artificial skin? A new partner?
Once we have the new skin, nothing will be able to stop us. And with that, our plan moves to Phase 2. Our little experiment in this city will end, and we'll move in force to take over the world.
Don't be so sure. You won't get out of the city that easy.
You humans are always so overconfident, so naive.
What are you talking about?
I'm sure you're aware that the Kyoto Summit, being held to decide how to handle the Snatcher problem, opens tomorrow.
Metal, is that right?
Yes. Countries around the world are concerned about the Snatcher problem. It will be one of the main topics discussed at this year's summit.
That's right. Tomorrow, we attack the summit.
You must be crazy. The security there will be incredible. You won't even get close.
Must I explain everything to you, Junker? Aren't you even aware that a fellow Junker will be giving a special presentation at the summit?
The Chief! Cunningham! So that's why you snatched him.
We've known that your chief would be speaking at the summit for over 3 months now.
Gillian, the summit is tomorrow. We have to hurry.
Listen, we have your chief. You junkers are at our mercy, and so is this city. And tomorrow, we move on the world. Nothing can stop us now. We will finally achieve our long-awaited goal of global domination.
Who is this we you keep talking about?
We are an evolved life form, given life in the depths of the Kremlin by our creator, Modnar. We are a new race.
Modnar? Modnar? The Kremlin? Those names are familiar, but...
Our goal is to snatch all of the world's leaders and then achieve total control of human thought and worldwide racial unification.
You're insane. Humanity won't be so easily dominated. You underestimate the strength of the human spirit.
I think not. In the same way as the Nazis, our strategy begins with the overpowering of the spirit of the people. We will strike at you humans' weakest point, the most primitive part of your psychological makeup, your suspiciousness and fear. By provoking suspicion and mistrust throughout the populace, we will destroy that fragile fabric which holds your society together, that of trust. Fear is you humans' weak point. It is the primitive part of your brains that binds you forever to your animal ancestors and makes you vulnerable. By stimulating that part of your atavistic instincts, our plan can succeed magnificently.
Gillian, at this rate they'll kill us all. You've got to get out alive. You're a junker.
Just what have you have in mind?
I've got a big fireworks show ready for him. Better that than get snatched.
What? You're gonna blow yourself up? No, we're better off fighting together.
Hey, it won't work. I'm hit in the thigh. Ow, oh, damn. A bounty hunter can't do anything with a leg wound like this. I might as well have been shot in the head.
Well, there must be some way out of here.
Hey, I wasn't doing this job just for fun. I stayed ready for situations like this. I've always been prepared to go out with a bang.
It's December. A little late for fireworks.
So it'll be an off-season show.
No, I can't let you.
My belt's packed with TNT PX. You know, that really strong stuff they use in the mines on Mars. One push, and this whole hospital will go. No trouble at all. No time to sit around thinking, Junker boy. Go! What are you doing? Get your butt moving, you fool! Get out through this air shaft. I've got a powerful strobe on me. Its flash will screw up their sensors long enough for you to get out. Now, you with me? Fireworks are better from a distance anyway, Gillian.
Are you two finished chatting? Then I think it's time for you to die. We're quite busy, you know.
You ready? When I give the signal, break into the air shaft and run, and don't forget your blaster.
Metal, stay with me.
Yes, sir.
Random.
Gillian. Doesn't look like I'm gonna have a chance to call in that debt you owe me.
Don't worry. I'll pay it back to the Snatchers with interest.
All right, go! Run, Gillian!
After Random bravely sacrifices himself to ensure Gillian and Metal's safety, the duo finds themselves in a duct facing an overwhelming swarm of insects. Managing to overcome this encounter, they press forward and emerge in an abandoned subway. The realization hits that this underground network served as the escape route for Snatchers when Gibson met his demise at the factory. As Gillian and Metal Gear navigate through the desolate subway system, they stumble upon a ladder. Ascending it, they are astounded to find themselves in Freddie Nielsen's bathroom. This revelation unravels the mystery of how Freddie managed to enter the house undetected back in Act 1, providing a crucial piece to the puzzle. Investigating further, they discover a 50-year-old map on the wall, referencing Moscow. Stepping outside, they encounter a taxi and attempt to persuade the driver to take them to Junker HQ, but he repeatedly denies their request. To their astonishment, they discover that the taxi driver is none other than Chen Shu-Oh, In a swift, decisive action, Gillian takes down the Snatcher.
Is he dead?
He's junk now. Stubborn one, wasn't he?
Jeez. He made it through that explosion and was waiting for us out here. If those things ever get control of the city, there's no way we'll ever get it back. We've got to stop them before that.
And to do that, we have to prevent the chief from getting to the Kyoto summit.
I know. And I have to pay back my debt to Random.
Let's use this taxi to get back to Junker headquarters.
I planned on it. I just hope Mika and Harry are safe.
Gillian and Metal return to Junker HQ, only to find the reception desk shut down. Metal's detection reveals movement inside, prompting him to open the area and discover Mika's unconscious but alive. Upon hearing Gillian's voice, Mika wakes up and reveals that the chief is the Snatcher, and Harry had locked her in the reception area for her safety. The rest of the building is on lockdown, with Harry and the Snatcher inside. Gillian requests Mika to let him in and seal the building again. Inside, he finds Harry on the floor with grave injuries. Gillian engages in a heartfelt conversation with Harry, finding him in an emotional farewell.
Harry!
Oh, Gillian, is that you? I'm getting old. Just look at me.
What happened?
I saw the chief messing with your turbocycle, and that weird picture in his office.
Metal, how is he? Metal!
I do not wish to say.
Really that bad, huh?
Gillian, when I confronted him about what I saw, he showed me what he really was. I was barely able to even scratch him.
That's enough, Harry. I understand. Metal, is there anything we can do for him?
Gillian, I'm sorry.
Harry, you'll be okay. It doesn't look like you're hurting too bad. This'll work out perfect. You always were working too hard anyway. Why don't you take a nice long vacation somewhere and rest up?
Yeah, sure. Nice try, Gillian, but it's my body. I know I ain't gonna make it. You were a good kid, Gillian.
Harry!
I don't know how to say this right, but I've always had a special feeling about you. I've always had trouble talking to people since I was little, like my father. What I can remember of him.
Pulse and blood pressure falling.
Harry, hang in there. You and I were gonna go out and tie one on, remember?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. You, me, and Jean, the three of us.
But John is...
Metal, quiet!
Gillian, I've lived my life alone. I didn't know my parents or family. Always so stubborn, glued to my research. I never really trusted anybody. That was a mistake.
Blood pressure continuing to fall.
Harry?
After Jean died, I felt it. Human warmth, companionship.
I know what you mean.
Gillian, I just wanted to get along with everybody. I don't need no Nobel Prize. For 50 years, I've been searching, trying to find something I lost. Looks like I'll never find it now.
Gillian, he's about...
Looks like I've been talking too much. It's up to you now, Gillian. I'm finished. You won't forget this, old grouch, will you?
Harry!
Gillian, you've got to believe in yourself. You're the last Junker.
Harry!
levels are dilated.
Cunningham! No! Snatcher! I'll get you for this!
We have no time for grieving. That Snatcher is still hiding somewhere here in headquarters.
Metal, listen to me. If that Snatcher gets me, you've got to take Mika and run. Then you've got to blow up Junker headquarters. Blow it sky high! You understand me?
Yes, sir. I just hope it doesn't come to that. So, where should we start our search?
After the emotional goodbye, Gillian investigates the entire Snatcher HQ for any signs of the Chief. No traces are found until he enters the office and discovers blood dripping from the ceiling. Looking up, he finds the Chief clinging to the ceiling. A swift exchange of gunfire ensues, and the Chief shoots out the power. With the backup energy now powering the building, Gillian observes the main door is open, and Mika is missing from the reception desk. The Chief, now holding Mika hostage, compels Gillian to shoot him, saving Mika's life. With the Chief defeated, he reveals plans about his true actions. Then the somber scene shifts with a mourning Harry. However, the narrative takes another shocking turn. When Gillian receives a call from his wife Jane, she reveals that she regained her memories and has been kidnapped by the Snatchers, concluding Act 2 with a heightened sense of urgency and suspense.
The Snatcher's functions have been terminated.
Mika, are you all right?
Yes. Yes, I think so. Thank you.
Harry? I got him. Random? Sorry it took so long, but this ought to make us even.
Junker? You may have stopped me, but it's not over yet.
Gillian, this is just residual energy feedback. Its power levels are dropping rapidly.
Queen's Hospital was nothing more than a maintenance facility. We have comrades operating throughout the city, more than you can imagine. Now our plans will move into Phase 2. For that, we will enlist the help of Professor Lorraine. Your existence is meaningless, as long as you don't get your memory back. Good luck, Junker.
My memory? Comrades? Professor Lorraine?
Harry! Why? Please tell me. Why do so many good people have to die?
Mika!
This is all wrong.
Mika, don't worry. I won't let anybody else die. I've made a promise to Harry and Random. But the city is still full of Snatchers. This fight is just beginning.
Gillian, I have an urgent video call from Jamie. I'll connect you.
Gillian, I've got my memory back. I remember everything.
Your memory? So what about us, Jamie? Who are we?
Gillian, it's terrible. What we've done.
Jamie, what's wrong?
I can't tell you something like this over the video phone. I would have been better off never remembering.
Okay, Jamie, calm down. I'll head out right now. Where are you? Is it snowing?
I'm sorry, Gillian. I can't tell you. They've taken our boy hostage.
Our boy? Who?
Professor Modner is here too.
Jamie, what are you talking about?
I'm so sorry.
Snatcher!
Gillian!
We have Professor Lorraine. We only require her cooperation for a short period here at the Kremlin. So for now, I suggest you avoid doing anything foolish, Professor Seed.
In Act 3 titled Jump, the story unfolds with Gillian, Mika, and Metal grappling to piece together the wealth and information they have gathered. Determined to unravel the mystery surrounding Gillian, he directs Metal Gear to disclose all documentation and information about him. Initially hesitant, Metal eventually reveals the truth, acknowledging Gillian as the highest-ranking Junker in command. As Metal begins to unfold the narrative, it becomes evident that Metal has known all along about Gillian's past. The revelation takes a surprising turn when Metal discloses that Gillian was found in Moscow 3 years ago in a sleep pod, delving further into Gillian's backstory. Metal unveiled that Gillian was discovered with a picture of a boy, a picture that holds significant importance. The shocking truth will surface as it becomes clear that the same picture was found on Harry, unraveling the profound connection and revealing the true identity of Gillian Seed.
Gillian, can't you remember anything at all? Didn't Jamie say something that implied you were somehow connected to the Snatchers?
Nothing. I can't remember a damn thing. Metal, I want you to tell me everything you know about me. Why was I sent to Junker headquarters? Where did I come from?
Gillian.
Metal, the chief's dead. Tell me everything you know about me.
Well, you see...
Metal!
All right. With the chief gone, you are the highest-ranking officer here.
You knew all along?
Of course.
Where were we rescued from?
3 years ago, you and Jamie were taken into protective custody in the Siberian Neutral Zone by the 17th Siberian Investigative Force. More precisely, you were discovered in cryogenic sleep pods in an underground bunker near Moscow.
Cryogenic sleep pods? You mean they were frozen?
This is a photograph of the bunker. There is no record of when you were placed there. In addition, the third pod was empty at the time you were discovered.
There were 3 pods?
You were revived and taken into custody by the army. Apparently, as a result of the extended sleep, both of you suffered from complete amnesia. However, another theory suggests your memories may have been intentionally erased. This is the only piece of evidence found at the site.
That's Harry's picture, from when he was a kid.
That's correct. Harry is Gillian and Jamie's son. It's been confirmed by DNA tests.
Harry? Harry was my son?
Using the information gained from the photo, it was established that you are Gillian Seed and your wife, Jamie Lorraine. Both of you are American citizens, born in the late 1960s.
The 1960s?
In addition, both of you vanished without a trace in 1989. There is no other information available about you after that.
1989?
Yes. You come from a world that's been gone for 50 years.
But what does that have to do with the Snatchers?
When the 17th Special Investigative Force was bringing the two of you out, there was an accident. Though the two of you were all right, most of the 17th was killed. One of them was a Snatcher. Of course, before their departure, they all underwent thorough examinations. So, if one of them was snatched...
It had to be somewhere in Siberia, right?
That's correct. And in order to attempt to determine the origin of the Snatcher, as well as your true identities, you were assigned to Junker headquarters. The hope was that exposure to the Snatchers would help you regain your memories.
Moscow? 50 years ago?
Almost everyone who was in Moscow at the time was killed in the catastrophe.
So Gillian and Jamie are the only living witnesses?
Harry. Harry was my son. Did he know?
No. It was highly classified information. He was never told.
I was never able to do anything for him.
After the emotional roller coaster Gillian just went on, he, Metal, and Mika gathered to piece together crucial information about the Snatchers, recalling their vulnerabilities to ultraviolet rays due to artificial skin and the traceability with Snow 9. They focus on analyzing the video call they received from Jamie. The memory of snowfall in the background triggers the realization that the Snatchers must be close to the Ina River. Putting their analytical skills to use, Metal examines a map and aligns it with the subway system. Although still uncertain about the exact location of the Snatcher HQ, they hold up a map of Moscow and notice a striking resemblance in design, leading them to a breakthrough. The deduction is made that the Snatcher HQ is situated in an old abandoned church.
Gillian, let's go!
Wait, Gillian.
I want to go with you.
Sorry, Mika.
Hey, I'm a Junker too, you know.
I know, and you're a great one at that.
So take me with you then.
You head to the summit to warn the delegates. They haven't given up, you know.
The summit's in Kyoto. I'm not going to be the only one to run.
You've got to convince them not to use nukes on Neo Kobe.
We found their hideout. There's no need now to sink the whole island.
Yes, but...
It's a tough job. Can you do it?
Okay, Gillian. I'll do what I can.
Thanks. Thank you, Mika.
Don't say it, okay?
Let's go, Gillian.
Gillian?
Yes? What's wrong?
How about dinner sometime?
Dinner?
Yeah, you know, dinner.
Mika.
Not interested. I thought it would be nice, you know, to kick back, relax. It's Christmas after all.
Christmas, huh? I'll be back by then.
Gillian, we have to hurry.
That's a promise, right? I heard you.
Yeah, okay. But I gotta go to church first.
I'll see you soon then.
Okay, Metal, let's go.
In their journey to the church, Gillian and Metal encounter an ominous sight. Snow 9 is prevalent everywhere. Gillian, equipped with a breather filter, safeguards himself from the dangerous substance. Upon entering the church, they spot a picture of a young man on the wall with the words, "The Creator, Madnar," inscribed beneath it. This discovery piques their curiosity. Venturing to the back of the church, Gillian stumbles upon a hallway filled with disabled snatchers, awaiting selections. As he proceeds, he reaches the Snatchers' curating room, uncovering the unsettling truth about how the Snatchers operate. The revelation extends to the shocking realization that they have snatched not only high-ranking political leaders, but also Gillian himself.
This is where they fuse the artificial skin onto the Snatcher's endostructure. First, they adjust the size of the still skinless Snatcher to the size of the individual who is to be snatched. The Snatcher's overall shape and size can be adjusted by expansion or contraction of sizing rods. Their sex is controlled by gender units, which are installed at this point. Then, the face is modified to match the intended victim by adjusting the size of the upper and lower jaw, cheekbones, temporal bones, and tooth alignment.
Just like Gibson said, that means there are limits to the size of the people that they can snatch.
That's right. The limits of the mechanism mean that they can't snatch children, the elderly, or people who are very tall or heavy. And this is where the artificial muscles attach.
Is it organic?
No. It appears to be coated with a type of plastic gel capable of mechanical response. Like human muscles, it creates mechanical energy through chemical reactions. And this is where the artificial skin is attached. In order to prevent the synthetic cells, developed using biotechnological protein design techniques, from rejecting the inorganic material below, they attach it gradually over a number of days.
And this is the stuff that gets cancer if they stay out in the sun too long.
Finally, they attach body and scalp hair. The process involves transplant of synthetic hair follicles as well, so the hair will grow back if it's lost.
What about scars or birthmarks?
It would appear that they make those adjustments at this point in the process, as they would for wrinkles to simulate age.
So this is where the whole thing begins. The endostructures arrive here from the Kremlin. Then they convert them into copies of their victims. And finally, they head out into the city using the old subway system.
With artificial skin maintenance being handled at Queen's Hospital.
But who's behind all this?
Gillian, look at this. There are some finished snatchers over here.
Get a load of this. The U.S. President, the Prime Ministers of Japan, and the UK.
Gillian, you're in here too.
Figures. They were looking to snatch every VIP at the summit.
And the last junker, you. It definitely looks like they plan on moving out beyond Neo Kobe.
If they were to snatch every major world leader, they'd practically be able to control the planet. Still, that's odd. With their flawed skin, pulling something off like that would really be difficult.
Jin said they had found the key to developing a perfect artificial skin. Maybe they've already produced it.
No idea. But the number of snatchers here makes it clear that they're up to something new.
Gillian, this is definitely their nest. We should destroy everything.
Not yet. Not until we found Jamie. Metal, how much time do we have left?
The summit should have begun by now. We don't have much time. And once our legal privileges are suspended, I won't be able to help. In fact, I'll be forced to restrain you.
I know. If the military wants to avoid nukes and goes for a surgical strike on this facility, what would they likely use?
Probably a phased particle beam from one of the attack satellites.
A phased particle beam, huh? That'll wipe this complex right off the map.
Everything, including the soil, will simply evaporate. The attack will leave just a large crater.
Metal, can you convince them to give me another hour? Even 30 minutes will help.
Understood. I'll try my best.
And I'll try to find and rescue Jamie in that time.
I can't transmit here due to interference from the Snow 9. I'll have to leave the area and then send the message.
All right. Do it, Metal.
Gillian, don't forget. 30 minutes. You must get out before then.
I understand.
Gillian, I'm sorry I couldn't help you better.
Don't worry about it. I'll be able to move faster by myself anyway. 30 minutes should be plenty. Go, Metal!
Yes, sir. Don't forget, 30 minutes!
Upon parting ways with Metal Gear, Gillian faces multiple waves of Inceptors and Snatchers until he reaches a purple door. Behind it, he finds his wife Jamie alongside the lifeless Dr. Madnock. In an intense moment, Jamie discloses the entire story she knows, providing Gillian with crucial insights in the unfolding mystery of the Snatchers and the involvement of Dr. Petrovich Madnock, until they are confronted by Elijah Madnock, who unfolds even more of the story.
Jamie, are you all right?
Gillian, you came for me.
Are you hurt?
No, they won't lay a finger on me. Not until the new artificial skin is completed anyway.
Artificial skin research? You?
Gillian, I've got my memory back. All of it.
What happened? Tell me, Jamie.
They said they'd kill him. They said they'd kill Harry. They forced me. I had to help them with the skin development. They said I had to help them because the professor was ill. Wasn't getting any better. Gillian, the engineer Harry, he's our son. He's been living on his own now for 50 years.
Jamie, I'm afraid that Harry's...
There was nothing I could do. They forced me. But I can't do it anymore.
Jamie!
The professor, he just died. He was over 100.
The professor? What? This old man?
Don't you remember? It's Professor Modner. Professor Petrovich Modner.
What? This old man is Modner?
He's been confined here for 3 years now, just to develop the Snatcher's artificial skin. Terrible. Doing that to your own father.
Whose father? Jamie, I don't have any idea what you're talking about.
You really can't remember, can you?
Jamie, tell me. Tell me who I am. What were we doing at the Kremlin?
Are you sure you really want me to, Gillian? It's all so awful, but if you must know, I'll tell you. Try to remain calm, okay? 56 years ago, you and I were involved in a top-secret Soviet project. It was still during the time of the Cold War. The gulf between East and West was as wide as ever. Everybody was worried about nukes. At that point, the world's armies were at their largest ever. Leaders still believed that a strong military meant a strong nation. There were rumors that there would be an agreement to end the production of nuclear weapons. On the other hand, the major powers like the US began to get involved in a space weapons race. But not the Soviets. The conservative despots in the Kremlin had another, completely different idea for gaining military superiority. A horrible plan, something no one else would think of. At that time, the countries of the communist bloc were facing an economic crisis. Popular movements pushing for democracy were springing up all over. Communism itself was facing extinction. Facing pressure from the reformers, the Kremlin began to panic. And that's when that horrible, childish plan was launched.
And that was the Snatcher Project. Replace your enemy's leaders with puppets of your own. Then you control their governments, their economies, take over a country from the inside out.
That's right, Gillian. And to develop these robots, they assembled some of the most brilliant scientific minds from around the world. Some of them were even brought in against their will. At the crux of that development effort was a group called the Frankenstein Project Team. You and I were members of that team, Gillian. It was a 4-person team led by the late Professor Modner here. The robotics expert was Professor Modner himself. His son, Elijah Modner, handled genetics and microbiology. For nanobiology and picobiology, myself. And for behavioral science and psychology, you, Gillian. Early development was carried out at a lab in Novosibirsk, but was later moved to a secret facility under the Kremlin. At the time, the Glasnost and Perestroika movements were gaining momentum, and they rightly feared for the existence of the program if it should become known. But some of the reformers did learn of the project, and they conspired with the US to block it. Gillian, you were a CIA special agent sent by the United States to infiltrate and sabotage the project.
I was CIA?
Yes, and the government knows that. That's why you were assigned to the Junker team.
What? Who am I?
Work on the project continued to go smoothly. But then, on June 6th, 1996, there was that accident. A mysterious explosion at the Chernobyl facility spread a bacterial weapon that was under development there into the atmosphere, destroying the country and the project. Gillian, was it you? Did you set off that explosion?
What? You can't be serious. You think I caused the catastrophe?
Somehow, during the confusion, Professor Modner and our son Harry managed to get picked up by American agents. But we couldn't get out in time, you and I and Elijah. In a shelter below the Kremlin, we entered a cryogenic sleep. Our plan was to sleep there until the toxic effects of the bacteria were safely passed.
And then 48 years later, 3 years ago, we were discovered by the 17th Special Investigative Force.
Yes, but when they found us, Elijah's pod was already empty.
Elijah Modner? That guy whose picture was in the church? The one that looks like Random?
That's right, Elijah is alive! Elijah is here and working on the Snatchers.
Why don't you let me finish your little story?
Who's there?
It's been a while, hasn't it, Jamie? Ah, yes. And Gillian. It's me, Jamie.
Elijah? Is that really you?
Random? No. Not quite.
So you remember me, do you? I am Elijah Modnar, the only son of Professor Petrovich Modnar. I'm afraid I've grown somewhat old and feeble since we last met, however.
Elijah, why are you doing this? Your father, Professor Modner, he passed away a few minutes ago.
What? My father? My father is dead?
Elijah, what happened to you? The Elijah I knew could never do anything like this.
I've changed, Jamie. These 40 years have changed me.
I can't believe it. What happened to you?
What happened to me? Jamie, do I actually have to explain it to you? Jamie, it's you. Your beauty is the cause of all that has come to pass here. 57 years ago, I was obsessed. With my research, yes, and with you, Jamie. At the time, I was still young, having just graduated with my genetic engineering degree. My father's connections got me on the team, and there, I met you. You were working as my father's assistant. Your beauty, your smile, I was stricken. I saw something in you that I never felt with women of my own country. You warmed my cold, young heart, Jamie. You opened me up, and I couldn't stop my feelings.
Elijah!
Oh, I was so happy. The political situation was crumbling around us, but every day was a joy. I gained my father's trust, and with you there watching over me, I was able to work as hard as I ever have on the project. However, my happiness did not last for long. Gillian, it was you. You showed up and all was ruined. You arrived and joined our project team. Far from home, Jamie found comfort in a man from the same land. Your relationship grew quickly, and all I could do was stand by and watch. Jamie and Gillian fell in love, were joined, and even had a child.
Harry.
Even then, my feelings for you only grew stronger. Worried about me, my father tried to have me removed from the project, but I persisted. Jamie, I always wanted to be near you. And then, the democratic movements that had consumed the rest of the Eastern Bloc spread to our country as well. The Cold War was over. The hardliners who had pushed for its development were stripped of power and the project was cancelled. The reformers, trying to cover up the existence of such a crazed project, ordered that all materials related to it be destroyed and that we stand trial for our actions. Jamie and Gillian were to be returned to their homeland. That's about the time that I learned that you, Gillian, that you were a CIA agent, and that you were trying to pass documents on our research to your military. The country had sold us out. I'm no politician. I couldn't care less about what happened to the country. All I cared about was my research and Jamie. And I was to lose all of that, everything. For someone so young, you cannot understand how great of a shock that was.
Elijah.
That is when I decided, I swore I would see that secret, crazed project through to the end. At the time, the bioroids were 80% finished. The main part, their endostructure, was essentially completed. But we still were having trouble with the artificial skin, the area that Jamie and I were assigned to. We called it artificial skin, but there was of course no need to duplicate T lymphocytes, Langerhans cells, or endocrine cells. All we needed was keratinized cells and melanocytes to provide the pigment. With the artificial protein development techniques that we had in those days, full-scale synthetic cell development was very difficult. Research like this took months, years. The original project called for us to simultaneously snatch an entire country. In other words, a whole nation, or an entire city, had to be snatched over the course of one night. For that reason, a powerful biological agent which could quickly and effectively kill the population of the country was being simultaneously developed.
Lucifer Alpha.
That's right. A type RAO11 virus which another team was developing. For someone like myself, who was closely involved in the project, blowing up the lab was quite a simple task.
My God, Elijah, do you know what you're saying? That explosion killed half the world's population.
I moved all the materials and records essential to the Bioroid project into the shelter and executed my plan on June 6th. After sealing off the lab, I brought the two of you with me to the underground shelter, and we entered a cryogenic sleep. But not before I programmed an atmospheric research satellite to transmit a wake signal when the danger from Lucifer Alpha had passed.
And 10 years later, Lucifer Alpha naturally mutated into a non-toxic form.
But the automatic revival system failed to work.
Oh no, it worked. Just as planned. It revived me 10 years later. A little sooner than the two of you, of course.
But even though you sealed the lab with the explosion and everything, you should have been exposed. Why weren't you?
Oh, I was. But by that time, the vaccine L-Angels had already been developed.
So everything went just as you planned it then?
Yes, up until that point. But my real struggle was yet to come. My original plan was to revive Jamie as well, and for the two of us to finish the development of the bioroids. You, Gillian, you were to stay asleep forever. But I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Not after looking at Jamie's peaceful face there in the pod. Besides, I could never have convinced her to work with me on the project anyway. I knew the time was not yet right, so I changed the timers of your pods to permanent on.
How could you do such a thing?
And so for the next 40 years, I worked alone in that cold and lonely room under the Kremlin, trying to complete the artificial skin for the Snatchers. For days and days, no one would visit me. I never saw the sun or felt the changing of the seasons. Still, I always had Jamie by my side. You were always there for me to talk to. Just you and I for 40 years in that dark cellar.
Oh, you poor, poor man.
And then, 3 years ago, my research was finally completed. First, I snatched the Siberian Special Investigative Forces to establish a transport route for the Snatchers. And then, to test the effect of large-scale snatch operations, I chose Neo-Kobe City to be my experimental sample. Neo-Kobe is cut off from the surrounding areas, a sort of miniature country in itself, making it a perfect test site. And since it's a melting pot of various races, it would also allow me to gather extensive data on Snatcher modification and operational techniques. In addition, the element of suspicion or mistrust, which runs deep in Japanese culture, was another reason I chose this site.
But your test revealed a critical flaw in your machine's artificial skin.
Yes, quite unexpected, I'm afraid. All my research for 40 years. I gathered data and worked day and night to find a solution, but nothing seemed to work.
So that's why you decided to bring Professor Modner here, right?
That's correct. I discovered my father in one of the government's hospitals. He was old, but still very sound of mind. Naturally, he would not cooperate with me.
Of course not. He'd never become involved in something like that.
So, unable to receive his assistance, I decided that I had to have yours. But a mistake on my part allowed both you and Gillian to be taken into custody by the authorities first.
Just what are you trying to accomplish, Elijah? You must know you can never get Jamie back.
I'm only interested in discovering what I can of the human animal. In the past, it was because of Jamie. My motive is different now.
It sounds like you're just suffering from the wild arrogance that corrupts so many scientists.
Humans are such weak creatures. No matter how much they trust one another, the tiniest speck of suspicion can destroy it all. Look at how the Snatcher problem has caused such wild unrest. No matter how much science advances or how high we set our ideals, we eventually begin to suspect each other, to hate each other, and then to kill each other. The Snatchers are nothing more than a tool for bringing out this reaction. I am simply using the Snatchers to elicit the true nature of the human animal. I think this experiment has shown me the limits of human society. I sincerely doubt it will be able to reach any greater level of prosperity on its own. If human society ever hopes to reach greater heights, what is needed is an absolute leader, a firm ruler who isn't affected by these trivial episodes of mistrust.
You're crazy if you think people would ever obey Snatchers.
Of course they wouldn't. But if they don't know, they cannot object. There has been a time in every age that the people have longed for a god to lead them. As long as they give the people no reason to suspect them, then they can easily become their gods, indeed, a new race of super beings. We are almost there. Once we perfect the artificial skin, Snatchers will transcend man to become this planet's true human beings.
But you'll never get your perfect skin now. Professor Modner is dead.
I no longer have any use for my father. I have a sample of the new skin he developed. Once I've analyzed it, I'll be able to make as much as I need. Or if need be, we could simply culture the keratinized cells, epithelial cells, and melanocytes in the quantities that we need.
What are you talking about? How could you get a sample of perfected artificial skin?
Why don't you take a look at this? We found this in the rubble of Queen's Hospital.
Random!
Oh, an acquaintance of yours?
He's a snatcher?
That term isn't exactly accurate. This bioroid was constructed by my father without my knowledge. He modeled it after me in my youth. He built it right here in this facility. And not only that, he programmed it to destroy snatchers. This bioroid caused me serious difficulties. It's designed and built far better than my snatchers. The machine itself thought it was human. My father input memories for it all the way back to childhood. Those too were apparently mine. Haven't you yet realized? Random Hajil is Elijah Modner spelled backwards. How like my father, silly old man. He did virtually overnight what I could not do in 40 years of effort. Furthermore, he makes a bioroid so perfect, even the bioroid itself believes itself to be real. What's more, the cells of the skin he developed are self-replicating. Once in place, no further transplants or culturing is necessary.
Is he dead?
Its main and locomotive systems are completely shut down. It's just scrap now. But the artificial skin is being kept alive. This we need. With this, we can move to phase 2 of our plan of full-scale infiltration of the world's major nations.
The summit's already over. You'll never succeed.
What does the summit matter? Nothing holds us back now that we have this perfect skin. We can go anywhere we want, and there will be no way to tell us apart. I will have free control over the world. Nothing will be able to stop me. Politics and free thought will no longer have any meaning. My will alone will decide the course of human history.
You egomaniac. Do you think you can snatch the entire population?
There's a fully automated snatcher factory under the Kremlin. Even as we speak, scores of new snatchers are being born.
But no matter how hard you try, you won't be able to snatch the people's heart and soul. What do you hope to gain from this anyway?
Jamie, the human race is composed of fools. But I'm different. I will be its savior. Indeed, not just of mankind, but of all life on the planet.
I'm afraid that won't be possible.
Metal!
In 10 minutes, this church will be struck by a phased particle beam. I am guiding the beam from the attack satellite using GPS and 15 navigational satellites. The beam cannot miss. Everything in a 2 to 3 kilometer radius from me will be destroyed.
Stop this foolishness now. I will not have my research destroyed by some souped-up pocket calculator.
Metal, what happened at the summit?
The delegates, worried about the Snatcher menace, voted unanimously to allow the use of nuclear weapons on the city. The military is presently imposing a quarantine on Neo Kobe.
What? Do they intend to kill everybody?
The populace is in a state of panic. However, they have agreed to lift the quarantine if this church is struck by the phased particle beam. This is our last chance. I will handle things here. Gillian, Jamie, you two must flee.
You insignificant mass of metal. You'll never...
One move and I detonate. Gillian, run!
Metal, this is crazy!
We can't let a single snatcher get out of here. And this new artificial skin has to be destroyed as well.
I will not allow some talking scrap pile to get away with this. If you're the aiming point for the beam, then I'll just have you thrown out of here. Grab this little one and take him out of here.
Oh.
cowardly little robot.
You always were a real pain in the butt.
What's that?
What? How did... You're supposed to be deactivated.
I don't go down that easy, old man.
Stop this foolish...
Shut up! Let's try to make our final moments peaceful, shall we? And you Snatchers, you touch the little guy and the old man's head comes off. Random! I've always hated being used. Why don't you watch the final act with me?
Gillian, you only have 5 minutes. The turbo cycle is just outside on standby. Use that to flee.
Let me go. I'm Elijah Modner. I'm your original.
I don't care if I'm an original or a copy or what. You and I are gonna die right here. If we both die, there won't be a copy anymore now, will there?
The stupid logic of a simpleton, of a machine.
Whatever it is, it's my will!
Machines have no will. Machines cannot sacrifice themselves.
We'll see about that.
You have 4 minutes. You must go. And don't forget to take care of the factory under the Kremlin.
Stop!
Gillian, even if these memories in my head are fiction...
Yeah, I know what you mean. Our memories of our time together are all too real, Random.
Gillian, you become one hell of a junker.
Gillian, it has been most recreational being your partner.
Oh, metal!
If you can, try to pick up the pieces for me, okay? Like we did for Little John?
Little John? Oh! Okay, Metal.
Hurry! You only have 3 minutes!
Thanks! Thanks, you two! Jamie, come on!
No! Don't let her go! No!
You pathetic old fool! You don't even know how to love someone!
You stupid machine! What is that idiotic grin supposed to mean?
By snatching you, I'm finally gonna get my real self back!
Random, there's less than 1 minute to go. Thanks to you, everything will be fine.
You don't owe me any thanks. Sorry to get you involved in such a big job. You did great. You're a hell of a junker.
3, 2, 1, here it comes!
Later, kid!
After Metal blows up the entire building sky high, the narrative shifts back to Gillian's decision to explore his past in Siberia before resuming life with Jamie. At the airport, he's warmly welcomed by Nika and Katrina, who reveal themselves as good friends of his wife throughout the challenging times. Nika shares the news that a new chief will take over Junker, and she plans to continue her role in the group. In a surprising turn of events, Metal Gear makes a sudden reappearance with whatever console the game is currently being played on. It is revealed that Random saved Metal from the full impact of the orbital blaster, and though his body was destroyed, his CPU and memory banks remain intact and attached to a temporary body. Metal pleads with Gillian to allow him to accompany him on his journey and requests that Gillian happily accepts. Jamie reassures Gillian that things will finally work out between them, promising to be there for him upon his return. Gillian and Metal set off for Siberia, leaving Jamie behind with tears in her eyes and a smile on her face, bringing the narrative to an end.
Yes, sir, Gillian.
Now that we experienced the story, what does it mean? Is it a cyberpunk masterpiece by Hideo Kojima? Or is it a metaphor of fear of technology? This game draws inspiration from classic films like Blade Runner, The Terminator, and Alien. Designed by former Konami artist Satoshi Yoshioka, the game's characters, influenced by the likes of Rick Deckard and Lupin III, contributes to its unique charm. The expressive protagonist Gillian C deviates from the stoic noir cyberpunk archetype, making him relatable and likable. Gillian's expressive nature, in contrast to the stoic protagonist common in cyberpunk, is reminiscent of Rick Deckard's character. Both share a visual inspiration, with Gillian visually inspired by Deckard, but also incorporating elements of the more humorous Lupin III. Yoshioka, responsible for the character designs and expressions, emphasize the challenge of capturing Gillian's complex personality, blending humor and seriousness. Kojima's directed to convey Gillian's wit and charm, even in intense moments, aims to make him appear more human compared to the robotic snatchers. The game's visuals, guided by Kojima's vision, achieve a cinematic quality, setting a new standard for console graphics. As for the gameplay, the complex dialogue branches, accompanied by comic book panels and facial expressions, enrich the narrative and immerse players into the game's somber themes. The cinematic quality of Snatcher is accented by advanced graphics, pushing the boundaries of console gaming at the time. Combat sequences unfold like interactive cutscenes, adding tension and drama to the gameplay. The development team's small size fosters cohesion and allow for quick responses to evolving tasks, creating a unique synergy. The game's themes, mirroring changing technology, resonate with the collaborative spirit that defined its creation. Snatcher's exploration of technology, art, and humanity delves into the ethical implications of AI progress. The Snatchers, a threat to be eliminated, embody humanity's fear of being replaced by technology. The narrative, punctuated by violent and unsettling scenes, raises questions about humanity's self-destructive tendencies. The revelation of Gillian's son Haru and the connection to Metal Gear Mark II adds layers of emotional depth, suggesting that humanity's legacy may endure through its technological creations. The game's thematic exploration leaves players pondering the potential consequences of AI biotechnology, echoing real-world debates on autonomy. Yoshioka's reflections on the game's inspirations emphasize the importance of understanding the past to create something new. As Snatcher contemplates about the future of humanity, it stands as a timeless classic, challenging players to confront the complexities of human nature and technological advancement. Its narrative, you can tell, was way ahead of its time. Snatcher offers a unique blend of graphic adventure and visual novel gameplay. Players take the role of Gillian C, tasked with investigating and hunting down dangerous humanoid robots known as Snatchers in New York Kobe City. The game unfolds primarily in first-person perspective, using a menu-based interface for interaction. Gillian's actions, including look, investigate, talk, pass, and move, are selected through text menu, contributing to a linear storytelling experience. The game's visuals consist of static images with occasional animations displayed at the top of the screen. Character panels are sometimes shown during conversations to convey facial expressions. Snatcher allows exploration of a semi-open world, immersing players in an atmospheric setting in New York Kobe City. Action segments are seamlessly integrated, requiring players to shoot enemies dispersed across a 3x3 grid. The Sega CD version enhanced the experience by supporting the Justifier Lightcone for these shooting segments. Gillian's robotic assistant, Metal Gear, plays a crucial role in communication and progress. The player can use Metal Gear to interact with characters via video phone, analyze items in Gillian's possession, and save their current progress. The game introduces shooting sequences at key story points where players must defend Gillian from assailants. These sequences involve a 3x3 grid, allowing the player to target and fire at enemies. To hone their shooting skills, players can access Junker's Odds, a shooting trainer available at Junker HQ that measures accuracy. Snatcher's gameplay seamlessly weaves together investigative elements, interactive storytelling, and shooting segments, creating an engaging and immersive experience for players. Snatcher made his debut on 2 platforms simultaneously, the PC-8801 on November 26, 1988, and the MSX on December 13, 1988. Despite being virtually identical, there were subtle distinctions between the two versions. In both versions, the visuals occupied a small window, less than a quarter of the screen, limited to 16 colors. The PC-88 version had slightly larger display window and moved quicker. Notably, the MSX2 version offered the option for either PSG sound or enhanced music with the SCC cartridge. While the PC-88 version utilized FM synth, the MSX2 version featured characters with moving lips during dialogue, whereas other versions opted for static faces to avoid lip-syncing challenges with dubbed voices. Both versions shared an interface where commands appeared on the right and were activated by numerical input. However, the MSX version interface was criticized for inconsistency and the inclusion of seemingly useless commands. While some sound effects differ between versions, the MSX version was notably known for an extremely loud sound effect upon shocking discoveries. The PC-88 version allowed players to turn off speech sounds by pushing cap locks on, a feature absent in the MSX version. The PC-88 version was distributed across 5 discs, with 1 main disc for Drive 1 and 4 additional discs for Drive 2. The MSX version comprised 3 discs and a sound cartridge. The MSX version had tracks exclusive to it that were absent in other versions. Additionally, a scene showing Metal in the Little Damage John sequence was cut in all versions except the PC-88. The MSX version had an alternate ending, providing a darker tone reminiscent of Blade Runner due to omitted portions and unresolved foreshadowing. Despite their similarities, the PC-8801 and the MSX versions of Snatcher showcase nuanced differences in visuals, sound effects, interface, and distribution, contributing to a unique gaming experience on each platform. The alterations, particularly in the exclusive features and alternate ending in the MSX version, added an intriguing layer to the Snatcher narrative, allowing players to explore distinct facets in Hideo Kojima's vision. The PC Engine Super CD-ROM 2 system welcomed Snatcher with open arms on October 23, 1992, marking a pivotal moment for Konami as it delved into the realm of CD technology for the first time. The decision to opt for CD-ROM technology was driven by the game's expansive nature, requiring multiple floppy disks, making CD systems a more viable option than ROM cartridge-based systems. The PC Engine version, titled Snatcher CD-ROMatic, was a significant milestone for Konami. This marked the beginning of their venture into CD technology, enabling the inclusion of recorded speech and high-quality background music. The transition to CD-ROM allowed for a more immersive audio-visual experience, elevating Snatcher's narrative. One notable addition to the PC Engine version was the incorporation of a third act, drawing inspiration from the extended story feature in the 1990 RPG adaptation, SD Snatcher. However, this decision sparked internal criticism, with some arguing that the game was already sufficiently long. Regardless, the extended narrative added depth and intrigue to the Snatcher universe. Renowned artist Satoshi Yoshioka took charge of creating graphics for this version. Inspired by cinematic masterpieces like Blade Runner, The Terminator, and Alien, Yoshioka aimed to infuse Hollywood-style special effects into Snatcher's visuals, leveraging a custom drawing application developed by Konami. He meticulously crafted character graphics, paying special attention to facial expressions, during conversations. Gillian's expressions proved more particularly challenging due to the intricate nuances of his characterization. Kojima's vision for the PC Engine version was clear: create a cinematic experience, drawing from iconic sci-fi films. Yoshioka's artistic endeavors succeeded in bringing the desired cinematic ambiance to Snatcher. The marriage of seedy technology and captivating visuals transported players into a world reminiscent of Hollywood's most celebrated science fiction. In essence, the PC Engine port of Snatcher not only embraced capabilities of CD-ROM technology, but also expanded the narrative and delivered a visually striking experience, marking a significant chapter in the game's evolution.
私も連れて行ってください。
お前、メタルか。
はい、そうです。いいフレームがなかったので仮のボディですがね。メタルギア、ギオとでも呼んでください。
チップは無事だったようだな。
ランダムが私のチップをビームから守ってくれました。
ランダム？
リリア、連れて行ってくださいよ。ねえねえねえ。
早く乗れ、相棒。
わかりました。リリア。
The Sega CD version of Snatcher, released exclusively for English-speaking audiences, marked a significant transformation for the game, introducing elements tailored for Western players. Launched on December 15, 1994 in Europe and January 1995 in North America, this iteration aimed to enhance interactivity, choosing a different path from the full-motion video approach of games like Night Trap from 1992. Konami opted to localize the PC version of Snatcher, presenting an opportunity for developers to refine the game, building upon the foundation laid by the PC Engine version. While the Sega CD had limitations capable of displaying only 64 colors compared to the PC Engine's 256, the development team employed software techniques to boost this to 112. Palettes were adjusted to find a balance enhancing the visual experience. Despite these efforts, certain scenes underwent alterations or censorship for the Sega CD release. Sensitivity around explicit content led to covering up breasts of both Lisa and Katrina, along with toning down or removing options involving sexual behaviors seen in other ports. Katrina was aged up to 18, while other versions she was 14 years old. Gillian can still hit on all the females in the game. Some of the racier aspects have been toned down. To navigate potential copyright concerns from the United States, character designs in a bar were changed from Kamen Rider and other figures to Konami's characters. The game's third act, initially criticized for its movie-like feel, underwent revisions to introduce more interactivity through additional choices and forks. Dates within the game were shifted forward by 5 years to maintain a near-future setting, considering the game's delayed release for the Sega CD. 7 voice actors contributed to 2.5 hours of dialogue for 26 characters. Kojima's absence from the Sega CD port meant that changes had to be made to the game's content and story occurred without his direct input. Exclusive voice acted scenes such as extended prologue, adapting the manual comic, and the additional ending sequence were incorporated to enrich the narrative for the Sega CD version. The Sega CD version extended the final act, injecting more interaction through exploration and additional scenes. Adjustments to content involved toning down or eliminating some of the more explicit aspects, including Gillian's interactions with female characters. Katrina's quiz question, for example, shifted from asking for 3 size measurements to the type of birthmark on her thigh, reflecting on a cultural shift in sensibilities. Beyond explicit content adjustments, the Sega CD version grappled with cultural nuances. The portrayal of relationships, advances towards female characters, even the availability of a porno in Plato's Cavern underwent changes to align with the Western standards and expectations.
Please!
You? Metal?
Yes, sir! We didn't have a good frame to work with, so this is just a temporary body. Just call me Metal Gear, Sega CD for now.
In 1996, Snatcher underwent a rejuvenation exclusively for the Japanese audience, debuting on 32-bit game consoles, Sony PlayStation on February 12th, and Sega Saturn on March 29th. Developed by Konami Computer Entertainment in Tokyo, these versions marked a departure from Hideo Kojima's direct involvement. Despite his absence, the team sought to reimagine Snatcher for a new era, a task that involved revamping both the visual and musical aspects of the game. The most apparent transformation was a complete visual and musical overhaul applied to both versions. The graphics received a facelift, introducing more color, detail, and slight red drawings in select areas. The PlayStation and Sega Saturn versions opted for an aesthetic shift departing from the original CD versions. However, the 32-bit renditions, despite visual enhancements, attracted some criticism for appearing marginally worse than the CD counterparts. In alignment with evolving sensibilities, both versions underwent censorship. Nudity, gruesome detail like the dog's guts, and Gibson's head were altered or obscured. The PlayStation version implemented screen grain mosaics to tone down gore, while the Saturn version presented an uncensored rendition. The censorship aimed at adapting Snatcher to contemporary norms without compromising its core narrative, while maintaining the essence of Snatcher on the 32-bit version introduced notable changes. Both featured 2 CG rendered videos at the title screen, showcasing early 90s CG work that by modern standards might seem dated. A new maze sequence during the escape from Queen Laboratory added a touch of novelty, although it did not significantly alter the overall experience. Kojima's absence allowed Konami Computer Entertainment Tokyo to reshape the game for a new generation, striking a balance between maintaining the original essence and adapting to contemporary expectations. The PlayStation and Sega Saturn users in Japan experienced an enhanced yet familiar Snatcher adventure, blending nostalgia with technological progress. A unique reinterpretation of Snatcher emerged in the form of SD Snatcher, denoting Super Deformed Snatcher, and it ventured into the realm of role-playing games. This MSX2 release in 1990 introduced players to a top-down perspective where they navigated the adventures of Gillian. The game seamlessly transitioned to a first-person battle mode upon entering enemies in the field, offering a distinctive gameplay experience. Armed with a variety of guns, players aim to shoot down adversaries strategically, targeting different parts with varying weapons and abilities. SD Snatcher retained the essence of its predecessor structure, compromising 3 floppy disks housing game data, complemented by a sound cartridge featuring the SCC chip. Konami conceptualized SD Snatcher to fulfill its ambition, crafting an RPG set in an unconventional futuristic backdrop, opting to adapt Snatcher's narrative and setting for a distinctive adventure. Notably, SD Snatcher addressed the inconclusive ending of the original Snatcher by incorporating an additional segment, effectively extending and concluding the storyline. This added section served as the foundation for the third act, later introducing console ports. While Hideo Kojima was not initially part of SD Snatcher development, his involvement along with his team became pivotal during the late stages of production, ensuring smooth completion. This collaborative effort allowed the team to seamlessly transition back into development of another project. Moreover, SD Snatcher gained international attention with a Dutch-based group, Oasis, providing an early fan translation in 1993, contributing to its enduring legacy beyond Japanese origins. Considering the plethora of Snatcher ports available, the natural question arises: which version offers the optimal gaming experience? In response, it depends on your preferences. If you desire an English version with music, cutscenes, voice acting, the Sega CD version stands out as the top choice. This rendition not only incorporates these features, but also adopts a more refined narrative approach, omitting explicit content found in other versions. Alternatively, some versions support fan-made translations, allowing players to experience Kojima's original vision. Among these, the PC Engine version emerges as a compelling option, boasting comprehensive elements and commendable graphics. On the contrary, the MSX version is characterized by experiencing bad loading times that must be avoided at all costs. Ultimately, these recommendations are subjective and based on my own personal opinions. Play the game however you feel. Now, delving into the elements that contribute to Snatcher's status as a masterpiece, we must explore the facets that set it apart. Despite its underwhelming sales, Snatcher has undeniably left an undeniable mark on the gaming community. While some fans of Hideo Kojima are immersed in the world of Metal Gear, those familiar with Snatcher recognize its unique brilliance. The factors that elevate this game to a masterpiece status include its compelling story, enduring legacy, and immersive atmosphere. A testament to its enduring impact even in 2024, over 3 decades since its initial release in 1988. At the core of Snatcher's masterpiece status is a captivating narrative. Although the story may initially appear cliché, it evolves into a deeper emotional experience as players develop a profound connection with the characters. Kojima skillfully uses narrative tropes from various movies, enhancing the expressive quality of the storyline. Unlike Metal Gear for the MSX, where the protagonist lacks a distinct personality, Gillian in Snatcher brings vulnerability and relatability to the forefront. Players entering the narrative through Gillian's perspective find themselves engrossed and empathetic, creating a unique storytelling experience. Examining the legacy of Snatcher reveals the adoration it has garnered from fans, solidifying its reputation as a cult classic. Reviews consistently reflect on the game's popularity, with no instances of a score lower than 7. The enduring fanbase actively engages with Snatcher, and discussions often revolve around the possibility of a remake. The game's legacy is not only marked by its critical acclaim, but also by the dedicated community that continues to celebrate and revisit this timeless classic. The atmospheric beauty of Snatcher contributes significantly to its masterpiece quality. From the vibrant art style to the colors of the MSX version to the Sega CD's immersive background, the game creates a visually and alluring, stunning experience. While other interactive graphic novels like Telltale Games exist, Snatcher stands out for its ability to draw players into its atmosphere. The synergy of colors, art style, and music sets Snatcher apart, making it more than just a game. It becomes an unforgettable experience. Overall, Snatcher transcends the conventional definition of a game, its enduring experience. The narrative, though initially perceived as a cliche, unfolds into a sharp and engaging tale. Its legacy, characterized by a devoted fanbase, solidifies its status as a timeless classic. The artistic backgrounds, regardless of the gaming console, contribute to its visual appeal. When asking if Snatcher is a masterpiece, the answer is obvious. It's a yes. Embarking on my first journey into the world of Snatcher was a revelation. It swiftly claimed a spot among the best games I've ever played. Despite its 1988 origin, the game exuded freshness that transcended the temporal gap. Kojima's second foray into video game creation undeniably left a lasting impression on me. The initial plunge into Snatcher right after conquering Metal Gear sparked an intriguing thought about the possibility of the game sharing a distant future setting. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. But it did speak to Kojima's ability to craft narrative that invites speculation. The influences from iconic films, particularly Blade Runner and Terminator, were palpable throughout Snatcher. The unmistakable Terminator vibes emanating from the Snatchers hinted at Kojima's possible affinity for the sci-fi franchise. The story unfolded with cinematic brilliance, showcasing what Kojima might look like if he was a film director. The real standout, however, was the voice acting, perfectly conveying emotions and adding depth to the characters, making it a truly captivating experience. The game's atmosphere, a solid 10 out of 10, was an immersive force capable of capturing the attention regardless of the circumstances. Whether navigating a dangerous scenario or truly playing during less appropriate times, Snatcher ensnared me and refused to let go. Headphones highly recommended for the full effect. The only noticeable shortcoming was the game's length. While a thorough playthrough, including exploration and experimentation, amounts in approximately 20 hours, the brevity of the game left me yearning for more. However, the exceptional rewarding 45-minute ending, a rarity in gaming at the time, compensated for the fleeting nature of the overall experience. Summing up my Snatcher Odyssey, this game earned a resounding 9 out of 10. Described as beautiful, engrossing, breathtaking, dramatic, romantic, and heart-stopping, it encapsulated a myriad of emotion. The only laminate was the brevity, yet a sheer enjoyment of a richly earned ending migrated any sense of loss over its short duration. In the end, Snatcher proved to be an unforgettable journey, leaving an undeniable mark on my gaming repertoire.
Thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this. Hit the notification bell to stay up to date on all our latest uploads. If you have any retrospective requests or suggestions, feel free to drop them in the comment section down below. This is the Retro Phantom, signing out.